All right. Hello, and welcome back to our series on Catholic women. Today we'll be talking about Flannery O'Connor, who is one of my favorite authors. Short stories, novels, and essays by the American author Flannery O'Connor have become a staple in many American schools. Some of her best-known stories include Everything That Rises Must Converge, Good Country People, A Good Man Is Hard to Find, and one of her few full-length novels, Wise Blood. O'Connor's stories are bleak, violent, and often disquieting. Set in the post-Reconstruction South, O'Connor doesn't flinch from showing the ugliness that people are capable of. She said once that her goal in writing was to hold a mirror to the human soul, to cast light on the bad things that we can do. Without knowing that Flannery O'Connor was a devout Catholic, it would be easy to read her stories and see no hope or redemption in them. But O'Connor saw her stories as truly hopeful and truly Catholic. Her bleak Southern voice told the arc of the gospel message in the lives of her characters. This gospel message truly included suffering and death, but ultimately ended in resurrection. Flannery O'Connor was born in Georgia to parents of Irish descent. She was born in the Bible Belt, which meant that she was surrounded by Christians. However, she was constantly excluded for being one of the only Catholics. On top of being Catholic, and this making her different, she was also, as she said, a pigeon-toed child with a receding chin and a "you leave me alone or I'll bite you" complex. These two factors working together made Flannery a rather lonely, strange, and altogether different child. When she was a teenager, her father became very ill with lupus, a degenerative disease, and soon died, leaving Flannery and her mother alone on their southern farm. Flannery went off to college and studied journalism. She got her first job writing reviews for Catholic literature. It was obvious to people reading her reviews that this was a woman of superior intelligence and of a deep faith as well. However, after a few years, in 1952, Flannery O'Connor was diagnosed with lupus, the same disease that took her father. She returned to live with her mother and died 12 years later at the age of 39. Flannery O'Connor published many books, many stories, and many essays. But in addition to these, her spiritual journal was also published. This journal shows a profound depth and understanding, as well as an intimate relationship with God. Like the characters in her stories, Flannery knew that she was far from perfect. She recognized her own sinfulness, and this led her to a strong reliance on the grace and mercy of God. Everything she did, she knew that she did through His grace. She once said, "Even if I do become a fine writer, it will not be because I am a fine writer, but because God has given me credit for a few of the things He kindly wrote for me." Another thing she said is that grace changes us, and the change is painful. Understanding this, I think you can have a better understanding of Flannery O'Connor's stories. She viewed grace as a painful process of change, but one that ultimately leads to redemption and ultimately to salvation. Thank you for joining us.